Munn from North Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I was going to ask a bunch of questions about strict scrutiny, rational basis, and all of those things, but eventually this all goes away. And I think I have at least a little bit of different take. I had 2 kids in 2 different school systems during COVID. And Dr. Ladopa, does COVID spread differently when you have to take half the kids out of a classroom and then let them all go to football practice together the same night?
No, sir, it doesn't.
And you can't wear a mask under a football helmet, but if you take your mask off in school, you will, at worst, get asked to put it on by a teacher in a different way. And more importantly, they could lose state funding, local funding if they do that. Does a mask work better in a classroom than on a football field?
Turns out it works about the same in both settings.
Is there a difference between Menards being open and a locally owned business?
To the owners, yes, but probably not to the virus.
Is there some super secret ventilation system I'm not aware of at Menards that local businesses are incapable of having?
I actually couldn't comment on that, but I probably would assume not.
When the clock turns 11 p.m. at a bar, does COVID become more contagious?
In some precincts, no, I'm kidding. No, it doesn't. It doesn't become more contagious.
These are all the ridiculous things that happened in my state. And I don't blame the teacher. And I actually don't blame the public health officials. I blame politicians on the right side of the aisle, the left side of the aisle, local officials, state officials, federal officials, who all hid under their desks and abdicated their responsibility to people who had never been elected to anything. And if you care about vaccines, which I do, then you should care about the fact that we were told COVID vaccine would give you immunity to COVID. And then we were told it won't give you immunity to COVID, but it'll keep you out of the hospital. But then we were told that you have to take booster 1, booster 2, booster 5, booster 17, and then you still have to socially distance and wear masks, but not at football practice. People aren't stupid. And when they get lied to constantly and they get told something and nobody ever comes out and says things, masks don't help stop COVID. Well, what we found out is we didn't have enough masks. So we're being lied to. And then once we had enough masks, we wanted to make everybody wear masks. And people in long-term nursing care facilities died alone because their families couldn't come in there. And the facility that ran it had no choice because their federal dollars were tied to it. These are all the real things that happen. So you know why we need to pass laws? So it never happens again. And I don't care about a Supreme Court case from 40 years ago or 50 years ago or 70 years ago. I care about the fact that people need to be protected because civil liberties only matter when they matter. And when you have the head health official on CNN saying, who cares about civil liberties at a time like this? Then you need your elected officials to stand up and say, we do. We do. Because that's the only time they matter. All the best free speech cases in front of the US Supreme Court are with undeniably bad people. All the best Fourth Amendment cases in front of the US Supreme Court, it's not a school teacher sitting next to the defense attorney when those cases are decided. It is because constitutional rights and civil liberties have to matter all the time. And they have to matter at our worst moments in time. Otherwise, they don't matter ever. And so as we walk through this, and I appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate from each side of this, but we can talk about strict scrutiny, or rational basis, or dealing with another case, but the world failed at COVID. And it wasn't the teacher, and it wasn't the restaurant owner, and it wasn't the small business owner. It was the people that got elected to represent people in times of crisis that hid under their desk and let somebody whose only job was medical make decisions that affected far more things than medical decisions. And also, I just think we didn't learn a whole lot about risk. And with that, and there's a difference between the front end of COVID and after about 6 weeks, and we made the most ridiculous decisions on behalf of our citizens, and we allowed them to happen, and people looked at it and they knew they were ridiculous. You know why people don't trust vaccines as much anymore? Because they got lied to about vaccines for 2 years straight. And if we care about smallpox, and if we care about all of those things, we should be held to account for that as a government. And with that, I yield back.